Just a reminder, by the way, folks, if you did manage to grab any of the small text and were fascinated by it, can I get you to either mentally or physically note any questions that you may have, because we're going to have a panel discussion at the end of this for about 20 or 25 minutes, and all of the speakers will be back up and joined by a few other people as well. So any queries that you have, you might just hang on to them. Towards the end of that, Kieran made a point where he said that mobile obviously was going to become a major part of all that he was talking about. Currently, particularly in Ireland, there is a paucity of data about mobile usage in terms of internet access, as in who is it that's using it, how often, when, where, all of that kind of stuff. There's exclusive research that has been done by Mindshare into that, and Finian Murphy, a former colleague of mine and head of consumer insights for Mindshare, is going to take you through. Finian.
Have to be awkward and switch to a Mac. It just makes me cooler than everyone.
Look at his thin tie in his Mac.
So I've drawn the short straw today, which probably means I'm a keynote speaker. Doors are locked. Once we get going. As I'm referring to, there's been a lack of data in the market in terms of mobile. And in the past 2 years, there's been a lot of data in terms of digital, but also consumer behaviour when it comes to media. We've been working with a research agency, some of you will be familiar. Spunge Ger joins us today, and we're free later on to take some questions. But the reason we work with the agency is really to focus on consumer behaviour and how that informs media planning. It's crucial as audience get more segmented and focus on different motivations and interests. Can I also thank our partners in this research, RTE, Metro Herald and Kinetic. A very comprehensive piece of research which basically has a lot of data in there, so bear with me and there'll be questions afterwards to go through. So we begin by looking, I suppose, at mobile and the different areas that we looked at in the research. 6 different areas which we're going to cross over during the presentation. Standard demographics and mobile ownership. This is the obvious question. How many phones are out there and who are actually using them? But like every research project, we also look at psychographic analysis. So we look at personality traits and how that affect different personalities and how they're using the mobile. Mobile usage is an obvious one, so what exactly are they doing on their features, how they're using media on the mobile, and we can't ignore apps. A lot of discussion about apps at the moment and how they play a role in mobile consumption as well. So as I mentioned, our research partner is Spongeit, a Dublin-based company. We have exclusive partnership with them, Mindshare we've been working for 2 years. The reason that we work with Spongeit, other than anyone else, is they have a real strategic research involvement. So from the beginning of the process to the end in terms of reporting, their support throughout. They're the experts of research, we're the experts of media, and we combine that strength. We also ensure that the panel that we're using, they own the panel. It's a 10,000 strong membership panel. It's incentivised, and we know exactly the respondents who are on that panel, so we can ensure it's top quality. It's online research methods. It allows us for a quick turnaround for a lot of the work. Very demanding clients that need answers very quickly, and we're there to provide it with the research. And we also look at quantitative and qualitative. Everything today is quantitative, but there's options to look exploratory in terms of qualitative. So a couple of hard numbers. The panel, we spoke to 1,007 respondents, giving us a nationally representative panel. We spoke to those who just own a mobile phone. That's essentially 99% of people. And skewed slightly towards the centre in terms of age profile, but we pull different segments out, so we're representative across the nation. So the questions that we have to ask, a lot of demand in terms of smartphones. How many smartphones are there in Ireland? Further than that, who are the consumers that are actually using them? So really getting under the skin in terms of what demographics, what segments and what psychographics are using them. But also, like any other piece of research, we have to understand the behaviour. So how are they behaving with the smartphones? It's not enough to understand who are using them, but actually how are they engaging with them. So we begin with a feature phone. This was new to me when I started researching this a couple of months back. The feature phone is the standard phone. That's not a smartphone. It doesn't have third-party apps installed on it. And the question for us is there a funeral for the feature phone? 1983, the first mobile phone didn't quite fit in your pocket. The Motorola Dynattack Since then, there's been plenty more, and the market as it stands at the moment in Ireland, from what our respondents told us, half of them own a Nokia. There's been a lot of talk about the iPhone. We see 14% from our stats, but really the Nokia is still the market leader. 1 in 2 people will have a Nokia phone. So that has big implications in terms of app development, and we'll look into that later on. In terms of the contracts that they have as well, majority of people are pay-as-you-go, and that's increased over the past 2 years, where people are less committed to actually having a bill pay. So in terms of the usage when it comes to data, that's going to have an effect as well. But also with 5 million mobile subscriptions, 1 in 4 have more than one phone, be it a business phone and a personal phone, or 2 different phones. So a lot of young people have maybe a phone on one network with all their friends for free text, and then a mobile phone on another network as well. So we have to consider that there might be 2 different types of phone with each consumer as well. So connection and capabilities. From a marketing perspective, from a media channel perspective, how do we distribute that message? And really the distribution should be done through a digital channel. So the connection of Irish mobile phones is crucial to understand, and the capabilities of those phones as well. Do they have capabilities in place on their phone? Well, lucky enough for us, we can see that majority of people, 94%, have a camera on their phone, 87% have a web connection, 69% email, and over half phones are considered to be smartphones. Now that figure seems quite high, but when we asked respondents about the model and we weighted it back and we coded each of them, essentially a smartphone is a phone that can install third-party apps. And the question is whether or not they are actually using these apps, and also whether or not they have internet access and whether they are using it. So 54% of Irish mobile owners aren't actually using the internet. So there is potential for growth, and there's also a need for education in terms of data usage, understanding that data is now cheap, and also focusing on the demographics that aren't using it. We'll look into it later on. But also, I'll refer back to the Nokia point I made earlier on, because of the people who don't use the internet, 65% of them are actually Nokia owners. So Nokia are still a crucial player in the market and having an effect on internet usage. And probably down, as alluded to earlier on, the interface of the technology. It's quite difficult to use the internet on Nokia phones. But for the question about smartphones, we look at the full entire market. I suppose the question would be who's the main player when it comes to smartphones. And in fact, a lot of people are thinking it's Apple, but Nokia are the main player, with 18% of the market being Nokia smartphones. Apple plays a prominence there. And then when we collect the other brands together, Samsung, HTC, LG, Motorola, they all have a role to play as well, because that's 1/3 of the market which are sitting on Android platform. So when it comes to app development, we have to consider not only Android, but also Nokia's Ovi store. Nokia developed through a Symbian system. It is equally split between 1/3. So there's a lot of discussion about the iPhone and the importance of app development on the iPhone, but we have to consider other platforms as well. So in summary, over 5 million phone subscriptions. We know this is important. Half of the Irish phones are Nokia. I think we have to acknowledge that. 9 in 10 mobiles are web connected, but remember, only half are actually considered as smartphones, and only half are actually using the internet. So maybe there's an education process there with certain demographics to get them online as well. So the question is, if half of Irish phones are actually smart, how smart are consumers behaving? And again, this goes back to the facility is there, the potential is there, the opportunity, but how the consumer is behaving and how that can inform planning for ourselves.